I acknowledge the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples who are the traditional custodians of the Canberra area and pay respect to the elders, past and present, of all Australia's Indigenous peoples.
And I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples, and I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which make up my electorate of Macnamara, the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I greatly value the opportunity to speak.
Time, the member for Bass.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first people of Australia and as the traditional owners of this land for more than 60,000 years. I also acknowledge and pay my respects to the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples on whose ancestral lands we meet, and I also acknowledge the Palawa Pakana of Lutruwita.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Could I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and thank them for their strong and continuing stewardship, particularly the Yuggera people, where my electorate of Moreton. And I'd also like to acknowledge
Corangamite.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I begin by acknowledging Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional custodians of country. I acknowledge and pay respects to the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples on whose ancestral lands we meet. I would like to extend that respect to First Nations people in the chamber, watching and listening today. I also acknowledge the traditional owners of my electorate of Corangamite, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Deputy
Speaker, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples on whose ancestral lands we meet. I also acknowledge the Bunurong and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which my electorate of Goldstein sits, on the shores of Nurm, the Bay. The Boonwurrung dreaming is told through Bunjil the Eagle as the creator of the Kulin people. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and I extend my respects to any First Nations people in the chamber and watching today. Across Goldstein, there are...
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land we're gathered on today, the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri peoples. And I acknowledge traditional custodians of the lands across Australia, particularly the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, whose lands include Jagga Jagga. Deputy Speaker, I began this speech with an acknowledgement of country. For me and those in my generation and older, this is a practice that has really only become widespread during our adult lifetimes. But for my 5-year-old daughter, it's something she started doing at kindergarten. She already knows about the Wurundjeri people and their connection to this country. The members of her generation are already trying to take up the opportunity the Uluru Statement from the Heart offers us, to walk together for a better future.